See David Toulis.
And in East Ridge, David Toulis here in East Ridge at our wonderful studio. We are covering local economy and the free market. And I have a caller, John. What is on your mind, John, touching on the Avery Gray daughter's arrest? What are you seeing in this story that we're missing?
My question is, why did the officer get involved at all in a repo, which is a kind of a private civil matter? I have some experience working in dispatch, and typically repo agents, not saying that all the time, but as far as I know, will call in to inform dispatch that they're in process of repo, just in case someone called the police. But they don't recall any time where they requested police assistance to repo the car. So I'm just.
Well, back up just a second. You say you worked in dispatch. Are you saying that you worked in a police department as a staff person, John?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So you're saying sometimes calls would come in from repo agents, I guess mostly men, saying, we're going, just to let you know, I'm John Smith from XYZ car lot, and we're repossessing a car in the parking lot of the Food City in East Ridge. Is that the kind of thing you get?
Or an address of a house.
An address of a house. And we'll be doing it at night. And they do that just to let the officer know that, hey, this is, if you get a call about it, it's not that there's a car theft or burglary. This is a repossession of collateral action.
Yeah.
All right. So now the question is, in the Avery Gray daughter's arrest, which took place June 25 downtown in front of the county jail, what was the officer's role there? Was he... You're wondering how he got involved with a repossession agent as his assistant, effectively, or at least it looked that way, right?
Yes, that's what it seems to be that way. I don't ever recall the officer being called in for that particular reason or case, and that because I just don't recall. That's just unusual. I just found that unusual because of my background.
Well, let me ask you this. Was your background in policing or in sheriffing?
It was in dispatch. I worked at in dispatch, 911 dispatch.
Okay, so calls handled by sheriff's departments and handled by police departments both come through the same number. Well, in the case now, my reading on the law on this point of the officer's assistance is this, John, and I don't have the citation for me, but there's a rule on repossession of collateral in the Tennessee Code annotated, and it says that there are two kinds of repossession. One is called non-judicial, and that is where the agent makes that call to your dispatch number and says, hey, I'm going to be at this house just at midnight seizing a car. There are people about. They may apartment complex maybe where there's some lights on and people may notice that if it's a summer evening and they're out, you may get a call about this. But hey, I'm here getting this car. It's an XYZ car. Now that's non-judicial because there's no court order, and the order for the repo man, John, is that he do that without a breach of the peace. He cannot create a scene or an uproar or anything that's chaotic or noisy or conflict, full of conflict. But if he has a court order, he can, as I read it, he can have an uproar if that's what it takes. And that to get that order, he has to fill out what's called an affidavit of détenu, and that's a Latin word. I'm not sure what it means. Tenu sounds like it's from the word French word tenir, which means to hold. So there's something about getting a hold of something, perhaps. And once he gets the judge, let's say Gary Starnes in Sessions Court, to sign that affidavit, he has authority to take the car or the object, even if it does create a disturbance. And here in the Officer Wright's seizure of that car, he did not have that piece of paper. So the repo man then was under an order to do it quietly. not to make no breach of the peace, and yet the officer created a breach of the peace. That's why this case is so unusual and really kind of frightening, John.
Yeah, it is. I agree with that being unusual. Yes.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: we are discussing policing, and I know police officers, when they hear Marie Mott, for example, suggest that police be disarmed, which is an argument I would second. How do you think that would be, or how do you think an argument like that is received among common people? You have a police background. Certainly, there would be some objection from colleagues or former colleagues of yours. How is this kind of proposal going to be viewed, and will it get anywhere?
In part of the community, I think that you would get support in that argument, but so far as from the policeman community or police community, they would reject it outright. Just even have an argument like
probably with harsh words too, right, John?
Yes, definitely with harsh words.
Well, let me ask you this: if let's say you were in dispatching, were you a sworn officer, John?
No, I was not a sworn officer. I was an employee of the quasi-government.
Right. Well, but you still know officers, very friendly terms with many officers in your time on the staff. Do you not think that they would really like to be respected rather than feared? And if they wore, just say, a very nice blazer with maybe a logo about Chattanooga Police on it and a nice shirt, maybe they could keep their armor plate if they wanted to in the initial phases of de-escalation. And then they approach someone in a traffic stop with their blue lights, and they're not wearing guns, they're not wearing tasers, no handcuffs, they're just there. It's a civil matter after all. Do you not think that they would be much more warmly greeted and not feared and dreaded in traffic stops and other encounters, John? What do you think?
Well, on the uniform change, I believe so. Appearance can affect our interaction with officers, but so far as on the weapons, to add the weapons to it, I'm hesitant to agree with you on that, because there are so many people with weapons out here. It's kind of hard to go backwards. And they have weapons legally, so I have to side with the officers and the police that patrol daily. But,
so your worry is that the officer would have to rely on the armed citizen if a gun was needed, and you don't want the officer to have to rely on the armed citizen, of which there are tens of thousands in the Chattanooga area.
Yes, it's tens of thousands, and you kind of, in a way, and from their perspective, that they have given the authority and given the power. The authority is the badge, and the power comes from the gun, of course,
and not respect. The power of the officer over the member of the public is not from the authority, but from the weapon.
Yes, and that might be more of a discussion we need to have, because although the department stated that the officer handled that situation appropriately by their procedures. Let me say that, but not just there appropriately,
right,
but by their procedures and their standards. I still believe there was some things the officer could have said or done, some language he could have used that would have made that situation not end the way it ended.
Well, John,
in my opinion, and another officer actually on the video in his video feed said, I don't know if we need to go that far. You could see her trying to get the officer not to go, arrest her and take her down to juvenile. But he insisted, because he said he had already did this action, so he has to fill paperwork, so he has to move.
Right. Once you arrest someone, you can't unarrest them. Once you make that decision to commit, the decision will not be overridden by your superior. You just have to stick with it, and because if you say that we're going to unarrest you, you'll have a lawsuit on your hands. Either way, you have a lawsuit on your hands, and that's why probable cause is so important, that the officer really have that. And Officer Wright, in the the arrest of Avery Gray, John, really struck me how rapidly he wanted everything to happen. Cops just have no patience. They're so testy. It had all happened in just a few minutes. And here you say you would have used some different words. Well, let's hope that your words are as few as his, because there's not much time if you're impatient as he is, John. Well, let me just ask you, what words would you have done or offered differently or different from the one Officer Wright shouted at this girl?
Well, one of the things I think is his mind, kind of maybe in essence to his mindset, he called her sweetheart. He said sweetheart, but more than a few times. And instead of at least addressing her by name and building a rapport with her, after he found out, okay, this is what this person is trying to do, repossess this car. And he just immediately said, "Get out turn off the car, get out the car," instead of trying to, what's your name? And trying to build a rapport with her. He found out that, of course, in the video that she told him that her mom was in the building, and why couldn't have just a little bit of patience for the mom at least to come back to settle this matter, since he was informed that she was a minor. So just simple actions like that. But again, he did mention that he was about to get off for the day, so he wanted to get his paperwork done and leave. So he was evidently a little impatient to allow it to kind of play out that way.
Well, it seems that the presupposition of police officers, John, should be just the opposite. Rather than saying, well, we need to hurry up and get this person arrested because I'm going off the clock, he should say, well, I can't solve this problem now and I'm going off the clock. Let's just leave it alone. Rather not use force in a short time frame than use force because the time is short. It seems to me that if he had thought that way, it would have been really respect, that he would have been able to show Mayor Andy Burke's respect for the citizen. I mean, he is Andy Burke's agent as the mayor, and the mayor would not do that personally. And so I wonder why the agent would do so precipitously, so hastily get this matter solved, and not let. So there were other cops standing around. There were female officers standing there. Why does this Mr. Wright, who has this connection with this car dealership apparently, why does he have to handle it himself? Why not let one of these lady officers deal with the young woman? And if the girl has to be dragged out by her extremities, let it be by the two female officers who were lolling about.
Yeah. Yes. You have a point there.
Well, listen, I appreciate you listening and tune in. Appreciate it very much, John, for calling. Tune in. You are a listener here at 92.7 FM, 95.3 FM HD4. We have Sean Hannity. And in fact, Sean Hannity is breathing down my neck. He's about to come on the air with a tremendous broadcast today, a tremendous show today on the Sean Hannity program here and only here at 92.7 FM, 95.3 FM HD4. And, you know, I mentioned something a moment ago that I didn't get to, but let me tell you what it is. I heard it yesterday at church in Sunday school. It's a verse that is, and the man speaking was right enough to point out that the verse in the book of Philippians, chapter 2, verse 4, is the argument not just for charity, but also for the free market. And it says, look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Now, what that means is not looking as in coveting, but looking as in helping, right? You're looking to help other people. And I wanted to say that verse is the basis of charity, and it's the basis of the free market. And if we want to have more peace in Chattanooga, more amity and more grace among parties who are maybe of different perspective and different color, different levels of wealth and so on. If we want to have more amity, we need to understand how this concept, this verse from St. Paul, has a real light, is a real light on the path of the individual. That is to say, you, my listener, but also collectively all the people in Chattanooga. So you're not just worried about your own things, right? You're not just concerned about your own property, your own cash flow, your own business, your own savings, your own gain at the end of the day, the number in your checkbook, right? The number of ounces of gold that you own, or the number of square feet of property that you have acquired through your agent in the past quarter, let's say. It's not just about your own things, right? Look, not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. And there you have the whole capitalist enterprise where you, my listener, are providing a great service to someone. Maybe you're just a widow, okay? Maybe you're a widow and you live in a house, you don't get out much, you go to the store. Of course, you go to Aldi to get the best quality and the best prices. And then you visit a friend from your church, and then you go home and you listen to the radio, and the service you provide, though, is to that friend who is infirm. And so you run her vacuum cleaner, and you notice that there's a kind of a pink layer around the drain of her tub. And so you say, well, there's not just that, there's brown spots in this tub. I want to take some powder to it and clean it. I've got time. I can do that. And so you're looking after the things of the other. So your works are looking, or other centric, right? It's not about you. It's about her. Whenever you visit her, you keep thinking, what can I do to help that person be successful in her low estate, right? It's a low estate as a widow getting Social Security. And that charitable impulse of helping that person succeed as a widow with now a nice clean tub, when her daughter comes to help her with her shower, it's a very clean tub, and you helped out on that. Well, the marketplace works the same way. And when I think of, for example, Jan Lambert, our sales executive here, our account executive at the radio station, she is always out trying to help people with Jason, and Jen, her sales partners. What do we do to help people? We're trying to get people to come to your business, right? If you're a business person, we want that listener to come to you for your car repair, right? Your AMCO transmission repair, or we want that listener to come to Virgola, the wine bar, or maybe for tax return work to Eric Pelton, and your cell phone breaks. Well, you go to Mobile Medics. We want our station, our company, to help you get your things done, and to help the advertiser who writes us a check and has a notice about that person's business on our station. And we're all about service. Our whole company is about service. And that's not saying that's not a big deal. It's not every company that is successful is doing that same thing, whether it's a restaurant or doing car repair over at Rivermont Pure on Hickson Pike. Those guys are always looking out for their customers, the lowest prices and the best repair with the best quality parts for the money, right? And so the marketplace works when you're not looking out for yourself, but for the other. And I like to hear that verse mentioned and I was particularly tickled that the speaker yesterday morning mentioned the marketplace, and that this verse is the basis of capitalism and the basis of the free market. And we want to understand that the marketplace is not just greedy, right? The whole idea of the robber baron, the predatory capitalist, that comes from evolutionary thinking. That comes from Charles Darwin and all of his friends who see business and who see commerce and who see the marketplace as simply predatory. If I can get in, if I can outwit you, it's all competition. Of course, there is competition, but it's not meant for evil, and it's not meant for greed. Okay, most people in the market are not there for greedy purposes. They're there because they genuinely love their customers. They genuinely like it. There's a restaurant here in East Ridge that has the same customers every day. There's some people who eat at that restaurant daily. They're regulars, right? And so we're here. These people, we're here. They're here. They're almost like family, and they come in here to eat their lunches. It might not be provident for that person to keep eating out. I'd say probably eat out just a little bit and save your money. I'm always economizing, David Toulis. I'm always economizing. So, I make a lunch pail every morning with a couple of ice blocks inside and a couple of sandwiches. That's what I do. But that's me. I'm kind of a poor writer, right? David Toulis, the blogger with the biggest pens, a poor man in many, many ways. And so I have a humble way about me. I'm not a member of clubs, and I'm not well liked by important people. But if you my listener like me, then I'm happy. If you think, well, David Toulis, I can trust him. I think I'll listen to what he has to say for 5 minutes a day. That's all I need probably, and that'll do me some good. If you say that, then I'm providing you my service, and that's the marketplace. Look again, it's Philippians 2:4. I know it's not church. I know. Look at every man on his own thing. Oh no, look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. That's looking out for the others, looking out for the stranger, right? Looking out even for the enemy. Look out for your enemy, and you'll have salvation. Because that's what you hear on the Lord's Day. But it's true. It is true. You look after your enemy, and you will have favor with God. This is David Toulis, and we have favor for Chattanooga, for Red Bank, Saudi Daisy, East Ridge, and for you, my listener. I do thank you. And remember, tune in to Marie, 11 o'clock tomorrow. Marie Mott, here, Nugget Radio. And now, Sean Hannity in the news.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Flash flooding swept away cars in downtown Chattanooga over the weekend. East 20th Street proved to be a major trouble spot along Cummings Highway, with the road turning into a river as the rains picked up. Motorists were seen floating down the road, only to be towed away later. Just remember to stick to the adage, turn around, don't drown. Trent Wishman, president of the Wishman Monuments, was indicted by a grand jury